Greetings, fellow Americans. Welcome to Fireside Chat's State of Our Nation. I am your host, Susanna Tanner, candidate for Congress 2026 and President 2028. So, a quick note on Trump's White House Correspondents' Dinner 2.0. All in all, he really didn't say much. His speech was around an hour long. It was not exactly what I would consider an engaging speech. He didn't really say too much that we haven't already heard before. And he fawned over the interior decorations of the building they were hosting in quite a bit. He took a few pot shots at media, at our news media, called a few people derogatory names, so really nothing unexpected. But his droning on really made me want to fall asleep. He did, or I should say, at the Correspondents' Dinner, some journalists from the Wall Street Journal received the Katharine Graham Award for Courage and Accountability. The journalists received it for publishing the story about the provocative letter that Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein bearing Trump's signature. Even after they were kicked off of Air Force One, they continued to report and file related stories. So congratulations to them and good job. Thank you for the transparency. Across the water, across the Atlantic, there was an incident in Berlin, Germany. While celebrating Pride, also known as Christopher Street Day, there was an attack by someone who is believed to be an Islamic terrorist. One woman was reported to have died. Several people also reported being stabbed, in addition to those who were actually injured in when the vehicle rammed into pedestrians at the Pride celebration. If the attackers were indeed, Islamic terrorists, then I hope the German government is able to track down their cells and reduce the threat to Germans and, in turn, the rest of Europe. On a local level, here in the Pacific Northwest, there was an indigenous woman who was taken into ICE custody. She apparently was standing on the sidewalk, and there is no report at this time about the events before the arrest. ICE is still operating as if they can just take anyone off the street. They continue to act like they're going to get away with the crimes they're committing and violations of the United States Constitution and our laws. Speaking of laws regarding ICE, here's a little bit of history. For those of you who don't know, the Department of Homeland Security was created in 2002, signed into law by George W. Bush, after 9/11, when the Twin Towers were hit by a terrorist attack. Department of Homeland Security absorbed the Immigration and Naturalization Service, transforming it into ICE. U.S. Code Title 8, Section 1357 gives ICE its powers to interrogate any alien in person believed to be an alien as to his right to remain or be in the United States, to arrest anyone in the officer's presence, presence view, is entering or attempting to enter the United States in violation of the law or regulation made in pursuance of law regulating the admission, exclusion, expulsion, or removal of aliens, or to arrest an alien in violation of such law. And it is likely to escape before a warrant can be obtained. They can be taken without unnecessary delay Um, and here's the questionable parts. An arrested alien is to be taken without unnecessary delay for examination before an officer of the service having authority to examine aliens as to their right to enter or remain in the United States. To the best of our knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, this has not happened with the majority of undocumented migrants that have been arrested, nor has it happened, to the best of my knowledge, with any of our Native American brethren who have been arrested by ICE. Now, it also says that ICE has the authority to board and search for immigrants on any vessel within the territorial waters of the United States, or any rail car, aircraft, conveyance, or vehicle. These within a 25-mile distance from an external boundary, and that they can have access to private lands but not dwellings for the purpose of patrolling the border. It also says they can make arrests for felonies which have been committed and which are cognizable under the law of the United States regulating the admission, exclusion, expulsion, or removal of aliens. If that officer has reason to believe that the person being arrested is guilty of such a felony, and if there's a likelihood that that person will escape before a warrant can be obtained for his arrest. But that person is supposed to also be taken without unnecessary delay before the nearest available officer empowered to commit persons charged with offenses against the laws of the United States. Again, I am very skeptical that any of that has happened at all. They're supposed to be able to make arrests for any offenses against the United States if the offense is committed in the officer's presence, or for any felony cognizable under the laws of the United States if the officer or employee has reasonable grounds to believe that the person to be arrested has committed or is committing such felony. It seems to me that there are a lot of instances where no felonies have been committed in the presence of an ICE officer or employee. So that's very, very questionable. Now, they can execute and serve warrants, subpoenas, summons, and other processes issued under the authority of the United States. That's pretty reasonable. It's understandable to detain someone for controlled substance laws. However, something that we saw at the very beginning of ICE raids was illegal entry, illegal warrantless entry in cases of farms and agricultural operations. ICE raids targeted farms first, and to the best of our knowledge, did not have warrants or the permission of the owners to even interrogate a person believed to be an undocumented resident. It also states that an agreement under the subpoena, or subsection, shall require that an officer or employee of a state or political subdivision of a state performing a function under the agreement shall have knowledge of and to federal law relating to the function, and shall contain a written certification that the officers or employees performing the function under the agreement have received adequate training regarding the enforcement of federal immigration laws. I think we have seen way too many instances of a lack of adequate training for ICE officers. Now, here's where it gets really obnoxious. Did you know that ICE are not treated as federal employees for any purpose other than the purpose of Chapter 881 of Title 5, relating to compensation for injury, and Sections 2671 through 2680 of Title 28, relating to tort claims? So technically, ICE are not even federal employees. They're not federal agents. And in the other way that they can be treated as federal employees is under color of federal authority for the purposes of determining the liability and immunity from suit of the officer or employee in a civil action brought under federal or state law. So ICE agents get federal immunities from suit but are technically not federal employees. That is really obnoxious, and it is a circumvent to human rights, to our Constitution, and to basically every other law that we know. They're really being treated as a personal military. We see that the current administration is in fact using ICE as their own personal military. But again, it's not federal. So I have a question for George W. Bush. Is this how you intended ICE to be used? There is a lot of call right now for ICE to be abolished. Considering how our laws are written governing ICE and the fact that regulations can be changed with the new Secretary of Homeland Security, I agree that it should be abolished. There is no room in the United States for unchecked power. No one is above the law, and the Department of Justice refuses to prosecute those who arrest citizens for just standing on a sidewalk in protest or murdering our citizens just for observing them. The fact that the Department of Justice refuses to prosecute those within the ICE ranks under color of authority shows that the Department of Justice cannot be trusted, and neither can ICE. In January, the Abolish ICE Act was submitted to the House of Representatives. We should show support for this bill. If we truly believe that no one is above the law, then we must abolish ICE. Because at this time, the way our laws are written, ICE is treated as if they are above the law. Contact your representatives and tell them that you support abolishing ICE. And hopefully we can reduce the amount of terrorism that is occurring due to ICE. That is all I have for today. Thank you for your time, and may our path lead to peace and prosperity.